Hey, everybody.
Hey, Wade.
Hey, Wade. Hey, Mark.
Welcome to Probably Relevant, Possibly Interesting, and also
Porch Talk.
Porch Talk. Which
Welcome, everybody.
My name's Wade Leonard. This is Mark Alexander. We're the Probably Relevant guys, and our very good friend Alan Aldridge is coming to join us and has kindly agreed to dual cast this show. So, Alan, good to see you, man.
Man, it's great to see you. I'm glad that y'all are doing this. It wasn't so long ago you came on mine, and it was the most shared episode of this year on Spotify.
I assume that means you had like 4 people share it.
I don't know, man. I thought it was a great conversation,
Well,
I thought it bounced around the Golden Triangle in a way that you and I probably didn't imagine it would.
I appreciate you bringing me on the show. In fact, this is entirely your fault. This is happening right now. He had been trying to get me to do a podcast for many, many years, and I always found a reason not to, mainly technical stuff. You know how it is. The more you know about something, the more barriers you can see. And then when you came to my house and we did that show, I was like, dude, what am I doing?
It's not a lot to it.
There's not a lot to it. I mean, you get some decent mics, and you find a space, and away you can go. So thanks, Alan.
Yeah, man.
My wife is probably irritated at you, but
She told me that last night.
How you feeling, Mark?
Good.
Good. What's been going on, Chief?
I've been sick.
Are you feeling better now?
Moderately. I'm improving. Hopefully I'll improve over the next 2 hours.
Well, let's just do this then. Since our audience is much smaller than yours, but for the benefit of those who have no idea who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself, Alan.
All right. Local idiot, podcaster, singer-songwriter, somewhat of a folk artist. I released a vinyl coming up maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago now.
And I appreciate you giving me a copy of it. It's beautiful.
Appreciate that, man. And I've been running a podcast called Porch Talk for over 5 years now.
Yeah.
And the reason behind it was I was living down in Mobile for 6 years, and I hadn't caught up with friends of mine from this area for about that period of time. And so when my chapter there was winding down, family health was getting kind of low, so I was like, I'm going to move back home. So I started reconnecting with those friends. We would wind up on a porch, and we would be talking about the daily, just catching up.
Yeah.
And then, man, I've been working on this song. The keyboard or the guitars would come out. And after we had done that a few times, I thought we had something. And so I had just started getting into podcast. So I was like, I don't think there's a podcast that exists like this. So we're going to give it a go. And Porch Talk was born.
And it's extremely successful.
It's been doing well.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. Like you, I'm also a local idiot. And I think this is probably going to be our 14th episode, so we're catching up to you, man.
You're on your way. I left out, I throw music festivals, and so here where we sit at Munson Brothers,
Yep.
Porch Fest 24, April 12th and 13th, I would love for you to come out. If you're out there on the interwebs and you've never been to Columbus, Mississippi, or maybe you have, come out here to Munson Brothers on April 12th and 13th.
Tell me a little bit about the festival. How long have you been doing it? What's going on?
5 years, almost as long as the podcast. And so,
did the podcast inform the festival, or did the festival inform the podcast?
Podcast informed the festival.
Okay.
Thanks to Jamie Nettles here. She runs the Sunstroke House, a house venue here in downtown Columbus. That was the second interview I ever did that stepped off of my porch.
Yeah.
And started stepping off into, well, let's branch this out and have more people on and get more ideas and see what's going on around town. And I started going to her house shows, and like her whole mission statement was getting bands and singer-songwriters from all over the country who would never heard of Columbus, much less come here.
Mm-hmm.
And I entered into an NPR Tiny Desk concert.
Yeah.
And that opens up to a private group on Facebook to where you can collaborate with other people who entered. And so I started getting these musicians from all over the country to come on the podcast via Skype or Zoom or whatever else. And then I thought, like, same thing with Jamie. It's like, wouldn't it be cool if these people from all over the country would come and play in our town? And we could trade venues.
And not only musicians, but you've got comedians coming in as well?
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Yeah, we're going to have Do-Rag and the Deer Tag. Still working out the logistics for those guys, and that is one of the funniest comedy podcasts.
Okay.
So I'm hoping those guys will be able to come down and do a live Do-Rag and the Deer Tag for us.
Well, that sounds, I mean, that's great. And what I appreciate is you have a particular kind of nobility with what you're doing, which is really about promoting artists around here, not just yourself, but giving a lot of people a voice. Our show doesn't have any of that. What our show
does now.
Yeah, it does now. That's true. We've known each other for, Mark, 16, 20 years, something like that. And we are very good at running our mouths, whether we know what we're talking about or not.
I remember when you came on the show. I learned that.
But specifically with one another, and conversations that would last, hours, into the wee hours of the morning kind of stuff, and never seeming to run out of things to talk about with one another. I don't know if it's because we both are eating up with ADD or what the hell it is. Mm-hmm. And so basically this show is just a reflection of that. It's a reflection of he and I talking to one another.
I've had a good time with it so far, man. Glad y'all do it.
Thanks, man. Mark, you want to tell people who may not have any idea who you are? I don't think I've said anything about myself. Can't remember.
You can.
Okay. I'm a dad. I work at a university. I guess I think former writer is probably the best way to put it, and I draw pictures for a bathroom here at Munson and Brothers. That's about it.
The most important part.
Yeah.
The bathroom.
The bathroom.
That's always wild, like hearing people who have never come to Munson's and they step into that bathroom and they're like, what
the hell is this?
What is that? That's did you read his description on the wall by chance?
Right.
His anthology.
There was a lady in here the other day after you put that Christmas one up that was talking about it. And I said that. I said, well, there's a bio in there and a description you can read about the multi-purpose bathroom and what's taking place in there.
It's a lot of fun.
She went back in the bathroom and read it, too.
And then left more confused than when she
stared at it. I'm not sure. I can't tell if she read it or not. She definitely stared at the...
As you get going, you're going to have to add this into the bio.
Yeah, I guess so.
Put a little QR code
right.
on it.
But, Mark.
Yes.
Who are you?
Mark Alexander. 3 kids, 1 wife, live in the country, 5 businesses that I run.
Van down by the river, right?
Yeah. Building a tiny house right now. That's about it. He's
also an economist. He has been a major administrator at a local community college. He's a pretty extraordinary human being, but he's
never had a bad conversation with Mark.
I've had a few of those, but Cyclops person?
Cyclops, yeah. Lost my eye when I was a kid. Had cancer when I was a kid, lost my eye. Rare form of childhood cancer called retinoblastoma. So we talked about it several times, but we never talked about it.
No, I don't think I think this is the first time we're officially revealing.
Maybe when Alan's not on here, I'll sit on that side of the table because that's where my blind side is, and we'll just do one where I take my eye out. And people can just
there you go.
Witness the horror.
Yeah.
It's not that gross.
It's not that gross.
I mean, it's like even with my teeth, man, these are fake. I had mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I took a big bite out of a toolbox when I was 11. I had just gotten those permanent teeth, and we were headed to baseball practice. I was riding in the back of my grandfather's truck on our way to pick up a teammate.
In the bed of the truck?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
And it was a perfect 90-degree curve. They're almost non-existent, but this one does exist. They actually created a new road to detour people from going that way after our wreck because it was so horrific. But it was a perfect head-on collision, which is rare, and we still have the toolbox in the back of the yard where I grew up. If y'all remember the black hard plastic toolbox?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, definitely.
I had my teeth prints in that.
Oh, my God, dude. And you said you were 11?
I was 11, and it looked like you had, not to be too grotesque, but that you had shoved the butt end of a baseball bat, and my gums were forced to the back of my mouth, but no bones were broken, no jaw damage, no nothing. And, I mean, just to tell you a little bit about what I believe how God works, was it just so happened to be like one of the best oral surgeons in this area happened to be here in Columbus.
Yeah.
And fixed me up.
Wow.
And so I had to wait till 18, and now I have this permanent bridge.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of the high school experience, was going through without teeth.
So, I mean, did you have dentures or something that you wore? Or?
Okay, so I had a wire, like braces, for the first 2 years till I was 13, to kind of help keep, because the dentist and orthodontist thought like your teeth are going to try to fill the gap, so all your molars and everything are going to begin forcing their way to the front unless we have braces to kind of keep everything in place.
Right.
And so I went 6th grade, 7th grade, and half of 8th grade with just a wire running across. And then that came out, and I got some dentures that I could put in just like an old person would. But I ended up opting out of them just because, like, I fully embraced it as like who I was at that time until I was 18, I just rocked the wire.
Were people mean to you? Were people
at the beginning? Yeah. But like I said, man, like I played baseball, and so it was funny. Like growing up playing, like our rival was Vernon. And even by the time, you know, rivalries in sports, they were nasty to me at first. But like even as we got to playing in the sportsmanship, man, even they would begin to like quit giving me crap. And man, I was blessed with a good group of friends.
Yeah.
And, man, everybody, it was a very small school, South Lamar. I graduated with like 27 people. And, I mean, yeah, there was some jokes made there at the beginning, but I would say from 9th grade to graduating, it was just known. That's who I was.
Did it affect your speech at all growing up?
No.
You did? Okay, no. That's good. I was just kind of thinking like.
Now, when I got these, man, like having a full mouth of teeth at that was tough.
Really?
That was interesting getting used to.
Wow. Yeah, I got nothing like that. I got my nose. This isn't really my nose.
So I mean, we got eyes, we got teeth, we got nose.
Yeah.
We just need an ear guy.
When I was 21, I was in this band. It wasn't a very good band.
Was Lance Cooper involved?
Yeah, he was.
What was the name of the band?
I'm not telling you because it's terrible. It's really bad. I'm not going to say it. But it was definitely a lot of very talented musicians, and then there was me, who essentially did a Tom Waits impression. The only reason I got in is I'm an okay writer, and I was kind of good at like improvising words, and I would scream into a microphone like Tom Waits. And one of the guys who wound up going to the Berklee School of Music liked how weird it was. Anyway, but we're at this bar, and one of the guys in the band was evidently hitting on somebody's wife, kind of situation.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And we're leaving the bar, and I see the husband of said woman aggressively confronting my bandmate. And you know what? I'm all about peace and love, and so guys, I put my hand on both their shoulders. Why don't we just calm down, figure this out? Guy rears back, swings, completely misses my bandmate, catches me right here on the side of my nose, flips my head like 500 degrees in circles. I trip backwards, smash my nose into the brick wall of the bar right behind me. Yep. Blood just kind of goes like a water balloon everywhere. I'm dazed, dizzy, can't see anything. Turn around, and like everybody's gone. Nobody's there. I go in, storming into the bar, demanding to know who that person was, just full of righteous indignation and fury. They don't know who the heck he is. And so I'm just standing there bleeding like an idiot. Nobody cares. And so I drive to the hospital, and my nose is completely shattered, and I had to get it reconstructed and all that good stuff. Then found out later the guy who hit me actually used to babysit me when I was a little kid.
How about them apples?
That's a fun story, yeah.
But you learned your lesson, didn't you?
Yeah, don't get involved. Or if you get involved, actually I learned two things. I learned don't be an idiot and get involved in things that
don't
you shouldn't.
concern you.
And also, while getting punched in the face sucks, it is not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
I've seen too many people that get in the middle of people about either fighting or about to fight. It never turns out well.
But you've never been in a fight, have you, Mark?
No. I've never tried to break one up either. I saw a friend of mine one time. I don't think he's ever been in a fist fight in his life.
Right.
He's a doctor now. But it was a gigantic white dude and a gigantic black guy. And then about 10 black guys behind the gigantic black guy and about 10 guys. So it kind of looked like, I don't know, like a West Side Story or something. These two rival factions.
Yeah.
And nothing is happening, but it's like shoulder to shoulder in the library.
You mean a bar or the library?
The library, the bar at Oxford,
yeah, in
Mississippi.
Oxford. Okay.
So it's like there's that side bar. I don't even know if it's still there, but you know what I'm talking about? There's a side bar that's up on that platform. And I don't know what I was doing, but I look over there and I'm like, oh man, I'm just like going to see what's going to happen. I'm a good probably 20, 30 feet away. All of a sudden I see this scruffy headed guy get in the middle of there and I'm like, oh God, please, no, oh no.
It's not good for you, man.
One of the guys, it's not even the two guys about to fight. It's just
idea.
one of those other guys just kind of steps out from the crowd and just crow hops him right in the face. And I mean, he hits the ground like a sack of potatoes.
Right.
And then starts army crawling out of the scrum.
Man, a buddy of mine told me a funny story very similar to that. Like, he got caught in the middle of this, and he got hit in the crossfire. And what he did was he just played dead.
That's not stupid.
He acted knocked out.
Man, I'll tell you what, talking about getting in a fight. It was in the summer at Mississippi State, and it was a guy that I knew and a guy that my roommate knew, and we really didn't like him, okay? And so we're walking now in downtown Starkville in front of where, what was the Italian joint used to be in Starkville?
Old Venice?
Old
Old Venice, yeah.
And there's two parking places open right in the front. And we were coming out of there. And these people crossed the street. He goes, like, hey, man, we're about to get in a fight, blah, blah, blah. And I just remember my roommate being like, well, we'll see how it goes, like before we help y'all.
Yeah.
And these other guys crossed the street right by him. And they're talking. And the one guy, you could just see he's just steady trying to talk himself out of it, with this guy who was a little short guy, but he was like stacked up. And a guy who looked like, I don't want to say that he looked like a professional wrestler, but he was a big old hoss. Same thing. The guy's standing there talking. He comes out and basically just crow hops him in the side of the face. 2 steps to the face. I'm telling you, he hit the ground, lights out.
So left body.
Yeah.
Yeah. They rolled him over. I'm standing back. It looked like Looney Tunes. His head, remember on Looney Tunes where they would get whopped and they would make a knot immediately? Yeah. They turned him over. His face looked like a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It was just totally. So, and everybody could tell something wasn't right. I think, this side was all closed up and immediately the other side of his eye that was open just filled up with blood, in the white of his eye. And everybody was just like, oh, my God. And, I think he, broke everything in his face, from, the top of his head to his jaw was just obliterated.
I used to run this.
It was scary, though, I'm telling you.
Yeah, talking about scary.
That's why you should never sucker punch somebody.
I used to run this bar in downtown Columbus called the Underground. Right now it's Huck's, but back then it was called it was Vincenzo's was the name of it. Vincenzo's Market Street Grill was the name of it. But I ran the bar, and the bar was actually in a basement downstairs. It's kind of cool. I'm 6'4", so I left every night with 3 or 4 head injuries because the ceilings were low. But one night, it's really busy in there, and there was this lady that worked for us who had this boyfriend who was a part of a Peruvian biker gang here in Columbus.
Sounds very common.
I mean, dude, yeah. And by the way, super sweet guy. I won't say his name, but loved him to death. Except for this night, it's really busy in there, and the girl who's bartending with me, her boyfriend, who has something to do with the Air Force around here, was there, and he came in drunk, right? And he looks at the Peruvian biker.
He had his ass on his shoulders already.
Oh, buddy. He looks at the Peruvian biker and says, "You don't know shit about motorcycles." And that's what I heard. And it's really busy, so I'm running around. There's a lot of people in there. And I hear this sound, and it's this shattering sound. And I'm like, who in the hell is throwing beer bottles in here? What is going on? And then I look to my left, and that guy who'd been sitting at the bar is no longer at the bar. And there's the Peruvian biker just doing this. The sound I heard...
Standing over him.
The sound I heard was the sound of a skull meeting a motorcycle helmet. Real fast. Broke every bone on the left side of this guy's face. Craziest thing. We carry him, and I mean, you talk like it's not Looney Tunes. This is like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What this guy looked like. Carry him upstairs. The cops just somehow apparate at the place, and the Peruvian biker is nowhere to be seen. Just gone.
I'm sure you told him it was a Peruvian biker, and they laughed their ass off.
I don't know that. I think we might have all forgotten who did it.
Okay. I mean, you might as well have said Peruvian biker. They'd have put out an APB for a Peruvian biker.
But I will never, ever forget the way that sounded. Because, I mean, literally, if you get a Budweiser bottle and smash it in the street right now, and that's what it sounded like.
I mean, there are so many sounds, man. Like there's you've ever been in a car crash? There's nothing like that sound.
That crunching dread that happens. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, even some areas that I've lived in, we would play a game called "Is it fireworks or gunshots?" I mean,
we did that last night.
There's a lot of different games and sounds to be had, depending on what part of the country you're in.
Supposedly, there's somebody in our neighborhood who just goes out every night and shoots his gun into the air.
He's trying to get the rent back.
Oh, violence can be fun when well remembered.
Now, wait a minute. Did somebody tell you the guy's shooting there? That's just what you tell yourself?
That's what I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the story. Because there does seem to be a consistency with it.
Man, I know y'all will believe this, but I was telling somebody that lives in Columbus, and when I was up there volunteering at the city, it's pretty recently when I was up there.
Mark Alexander was the volunteer COO of Columbus, Mississippi. That's a real thing.
That's a real thing, yeah. Learned a lot.
I bet you did.
But there's these, I get a phone call, and it's an elderly guy, and he says, "Hey, we got a problem." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Somebody's been shooting a gun." And this is whatever time it is, 7:30 in the morning when I show up for 8 o'clock to be there. I'm like,
this is the first thing in the morning kind of thing?
Yeah, but I'm just like, okay, right now you need to call the police. It's like, oh, I already called them. They come down here, and then they run off and come back. I was like, so they're shooting a gun right now? This is at the city hall. Like, there's nothing we can do.
Like, this guy just called City Hall, you were there.
Yeah, calling the city hall, and I'm answering it right. So then throughout the day, several people start calling that, I can't remember what it was, but like overnight, and some people had tried to chase them and take pictures of them on their phone or whatever, but there's these 3 or 4 juveniles that had 2 AK-47s that were just shooting them and shot, like, according to different people, hundreds of rounds of ammo overnight, so over this one night. So as the day goes on, all these people are calling, there's all these problems.
And you put your Batman suit on.
I didn't put anything on. I just took the phone off the...
Y'all need a vigilante, do you?
Yeah, right.
So I'm saying, even if they're not committing crimes other than discharging a weapon in the city, they're just out there being fools. There's people just being foolish with guns.
So you're saying that some kids were running around shooting AK-47s
they went out
all
there
night long?
I would say for 2 to 3 hours, they were spontaneously shooting, pow, 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 pow. And where it is in the city, it backs up to like a heavily wooded area, in an abandoned industrial area in a wooded area. So they're shooting it like in a dead-end street back into that area is where they were shooting.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I suppose that these people haven't been brought to justice.
I mean, they were probably kids.
Yeah.
So no. My point in saying this, there are people out there just acting foolish and shooting their guns that aren't shooting people with them.
Absolutely.
True.
I used to shoot squirrels in the city limits. with my 22.
It's fun.
So I was, they could have called the cops on me for doing it.
Well, I think there's a difference between a 22 and an AK-47, though. I mean, just in terms of the noise and how nervous it might make.
I don't know. Like, there's something about that 22 caliber that people really sleep on it. Like how far it can travel, and
oh hell yeah,
and even like it's a little more dense, and it can get through a lot more things than people think.
Well, I think the what I've always understood is it's a lot worse to get shot with a 22
It'll
because
rattle.
it just rattles around inside of you. I don't know if that's true or not.
That's what I've always heard.
let's try it.
I'm not good at guns.
But I ended up getting this ammo to shoot in the city that was had no powder, had all primer charge, so you could shoot it and it didn't make any noise.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah. So it
didn't make any noise.
I mean, it made like it's like the sound of a BB gun.
The hammer.
Yeah. I mean, it was no noise because there's no powder. It was low. I mean, you had to shoot it probably 30 yards or less. It just had no power. But for me, sniping the squirrels in my backyard, it worked.
Right on, dude. I'm with it. I grew up in the country in Lamar County in Alabama, and I mean that was my grandpa taught us, like, during the summertime when the bumblebees were out, digging their holes in the sheds and anything wood they could find. He's like, get a little paddle, knock them unconscious, then we'll tie a string around the abdomen, and we'll fly them like kites.
My grandmama did that with June bugs. She'd tie a string around their back leg, and then just...
And it was fun as a kid.
Yeah.
Thrilled
What do you
about
do?
it.
Just squish them at the end?
No, I mean, we would turn them loose after. Or then sometimes, it would turn out like this was baseball practice, like my grandfather was Mr. Miyagi or something.
Okay.
It was like a wax on, wax off. If you can hit a bee with a broomstick, you can hit a baseball. And so a lot of they didn't get out alive. But
well, what position did you play when you played baseball?
Oh, I'm left-handed, and so I started at shortstop, left-handed shortstop.
Okay.
And then second base, and eventually would find my home on first base.
No, you just moved right on over, didn't you?
I did. And then with batting, my grandpa, man, he was hell. And his best friend, Clark Harden, growing up, I mean, they were baseball. And then when my dad, like, aged out of that, man, they were, like, coaching this softball team, and they were hell. And, like, this was back when, like, rec softball was, like, traveling tournaments, doing trophies, the whole 9 yards. And my grandpa would do some disturbing things if you had a bad habit, such as stepping out of the box. He would, like, stand these center blocks straight up and then lay a 2x4 across. And then he's like, step out now. And then would just beam you. Be like, it don't hurt that bad, does it? And so I remember, like, he was hell, dude. And like when he was teaching us how to pitch or even throw a curveball and all that, I mean, just his way about it. He worked at Nova here in town. They used to do vinyl.
Yeah.
And so he had access to some of those vinyl rows, and he would bring home strips of vinyl, and he would lay out like a 10 by 10, and then you would lay out a strike zone, and he would cut a hole like where the sweet spot was. And when we were learning like fastballs, changeup, even up to curveballs, he said, when it gets done, and my brother was the better pitcher, you need to be able to have that ball sink right in that hole. And I'm talking about, baseball. And that hole would be probably, I don't know, like a mid-sized pumpkin. Like not a big range, but like where your curve was coming in, it needed to sink right into that hole. And we were well old after those processes.
Yeah, I bet you were. I've always thought that first base, you have to have nerves of steel to do that because there's so much happens at first base, and you have to be perfect every time, or you're an idiot. Yeah. And you have to. I mean, every position in baseball is challenging, of course, but so much happens on first base.
Oh yeah. And it was my favorite thing. The Smelly Brothers, we played ACA.
Smelly Brothers.
They would ruin. One played at the University of Alabama. The other one played quarterback at South Carolina. They played every sport.
Yeah.
Their main two was football and baseball. They played at ACA in Tuscaloosa, and I remember it was probably my 9th or 10th grade year. They were stomping us. And this is playoff contention. and we were losing, and so I went in on first base, and like we intentionally walked the guy, and every time I'd walk over there to the bag to hold out my glove as he's getting his lead, I just so happened would just stomp on his foot with my cleat and kind of just kind of dig it in a little and be like, oh, my bad, Smelly. Did I get you, dog? Did I get you? And I remember one time, dude, we were trying to intentionally walk the older one. I don't remember his name at the time, but he stepped. It didn't count, but it was a hell of a hit. He stepped on the plate and launched that thing. They had a net that prevented.
Oh, so you were throwing it way out. The pitcher was throwing it way outside, and okay.
He stepped on home plate and crushed it, and they had a huge net like what you would see at a Topgolf to keep the golf balls from going into the highway. They had that same setup at ACA in Tuscaloosa. It went over the net. I'm talking about like what you would think of like a Mark McGuire or a Barry Bonds.
Yeah, sure.
Like he crushed it, and I was like, golly, I just want to go home. I don't want to play these boys no more. This is different level stuff.
Right.
I mean, whenever you see that in high school, like you know when someone is just above and beyond what anything you've ever seen.
Yeah, and then you're like, well, I sure am glad I sewed these razor blades in this hat.
Yeah, it's like, how can we do them dirty to get a little bit of an edge?
That was always a miserable feeling, though. Whenever you played sports and, you knew within the first, 10%, oh, damn, this is going to be a long day.
And you know it exactly when you see it.
That's what I'm saying. When they would show up, whatever it was, and even if you had a little bit of, lingering in your gut, and they came out there, whatever sport it was, they came out there and you saw how big they were, how fast they were, whatever they were doing, you just be like, oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
And then usually it was worse than what I ever dreaded.
Yeah, I was never much of a sportsman myself.
I can just remember, when you we play basketball, and, in basketball, if you're outmatched in basketball, there's really no way to, shine if you're outmatched. It's not, it's like football. If you're kind of just overpowered, you're just going to be overpowered. There's not one or two guys that can save you. You don't have a pitcher that can come out and do it. You don't have a guy that can come out there and just, smack it. You just kind of stink.
You take it.
You come out there and just get beat by 45 points in basketball or something ridiculous.
And, I know equipment is not even close to everything, but it is important because I've always been tall, and so there was always this assumption that I was going to play basketball, right? Forget the fact that I had absolutely no talent or coordination or ability. But I do remember played my first basketball game, and my parents sent me because they forgot to get me. Go ahead. They forgot to get me basketball shorts. They sent me out in black jean shorts to play basketball.
Yeah, how was your?
I sucked.
Rashed up.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, that was at a game you played?
Yeah, there's a picture of me, I don't know, 10, 11 years old, with my whatever team jersey and some black jean shorts. And they didn't go, oh, my gosh, and then later go out and get me some basketball shorts. I just wore the black jean shorts to every basketball game.
Huh.
To be fair, I wasn't playing a lot.
Going in was hell, dude.
Yeah. Dude, I think I still have the record for the least amount of field time in the history of the Mississippi School for Mathematics and Science soccer team.
Oh, mercy.
I joined the soccer team my senior year, and it was a co-ed team, and we were good. Believe it or not, smart kids are good at soccer. And we're playing, I don't know, some local team around here. It's near the end of the game, and we're up by 3 or 4 goals. And
put Leonard in.
That's exactly right. Dr. Cass said, get in there, Wade. And I run out there and kick the ball in the wrong direction. He says, get out of there, Wade. And I run right out.
I mean, that's funny. I mean, just going back to wearing the black jeans, man. The guy, he had a Southern Miss hoodie on, and y'all were catching up that night. He's recently back in town. And after you had left, he continued to share stories of your old man with me and Wes. And I was like, with everything that I've heard about your old man, rings true. Just for who he was.
He was something else, buddy. He was something
so I
else.
could totally see him sending you out in jean shorts.
100%. And he was very much a baseball guy. If there's such a thing as a person.
Cubs or Braves?
Yankees.
Oh, of all things.
Of all things.
Because during that time, in this area, it was a Braves or Cub, right?
Well, where he grew up in a little town in North Florida called Bluntstown. If you don't know where that is, it's over by Alpha, Calhoun County. And when he was growing up, on the radio, you would either get Yankees games or Dodgers games.
That's so wild.
And so you kind of picked one, and he picked the Yankees. And if my dad was anything, he was loyal. Once he picked something, that was it.
He was in there.
And so he was he was one of those never really left the South New York Yankees fans that you run into.
Yeah.
But I can even remember, because the Yankees were pretty terrible in the 80s. And him sticking with them completely. And, whoever played for the Yankees could do absolutely no wrong. Mickey Mantle was his favorite person that ever lived. But Mark Leonard was a character. When he was in high school, he was a DJ for the radio station down in Bluntstown. His DJ name was Ben Blue. And so whenever like a band would come, like anywhere within spitting distance, he got tickets and got to go see them. And one time he got to go see Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs.
Oh, nice.
Of Wooly Bully fame. And he ended up hanging out with them. And they wrote a song about my dad that he would proudly recollect to anybody, whether they wanted to hear it or not, and it went like this. Old Mark Leonard from Bluntstown, Florida, he ain't nothing but a green fart snorter. That's it. He was very proud of that.
I was
It's true. Well, I mean, he said it was true.
something too. It was a Bob Dylan line in a song.
Yeah, he was also a big Dylan fan.
It was he's talking about meeting this cat Gray, and someone inherited $1 million.
Okay.
Do you remember the Hootie and Blowfish song when Hootie said that he was the one that inherited $1 million?
And I think Bob Dylan sued the hell out of him, right?
Yes, he did.
He also sued the hell out of the Counting Crows.
Mr. Jones.
Because of Mr. Jones, yeah.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Yep. Like, and what's funny is both these are supposed to be like
in tribute
to Bob Dylan. And Bob Dylan said, "I don't care."
Yeah.
Screw you,
Hootie. Did he sue him, or like his publishing company or record company, or like him himself?
I'm not
I don't
sure
have the
about
details
that.
on that.
But I don't think Dylan appreciated it.
What a grouchy bastard.
I think from what I understand about Bob Dylan, he is a bit of that.
Well, I mean, I think that's typical for those like rock stars of that, like even your Claptons or Led Zeppelins, like it was forever. I think Thor Ragnarok was the first movie in history that had a Led Zeppelin song featured, because Led Zeppelin would not give anybody rights to their music. And then you heard Immigrant Song as the
which was pretty crazy.
Opening score, like for the movie trailer, and also for when they introduced the villain, I believe. But and like right when I heard that, I was like, I can't believe they got away with that, because like all those old heads from that era was like,
I mean, in that
they weren't
era,
taking any crap.
Zeppelin especially, they got away with everything. I mean, you think about things that happened, and to an extent, some people have rightly gotten in a lot of trouble for terrible behavior. But I mean, I don't think there's anybody who debates the fact that Jimmy Page and Robert Plant like kidnapped girls and wouldn't let them leave their house.
Well,
kept them for years.
And not only that, but just in the artistic sense, is like, man, some of their songs were ripped off from people.
I think they got sued. Was it Stairway they got sued over?
That was.
They lost that one, but I mean, a lot of those, especially from like Led Zeppelin 1 and 2, I think some of the later ones maybe, but I don't know. They were just straight stolen.
Yes.
I mean, I'm saying music and words stolen.
Mm-hmm.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Well, and their excuse, I think, was always the excuse that, well, it's the blues, man, and everybody plays the same shit, and they're just iterating on the same stuff.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but y'all aren't those guys. You're not playing in Clarksdale, fucking Mississippi, like in an abandoned block building or whatever.
Yeah.
you're these huge mega stars making these records that are making you a ton of money.
And by the way, ripping off these people who, and you didn't even give them credit. Like
exactly.
This could have changed that person or their family's trajectory forever.
And I think to some of that though, like some of it, the credit that they could give. It'd have been like, okay, I played 3 or 4. We all played the same song, and one of us had a hit with the song. And then you just say, okay, I wrote that song. All right, I'm playing in the same abandoned gas station in Clarksdale. What am I going to do? Sue you?
Right, exactly.
I mean, I think that was some of their excuse too, was that the people that they could go back and say, okay, well, John Lee Hooker wrote this song. He might have said he did, and maybe he did.
Prove it.
But that was their thing. I was like, okay, well, we shouldn't give. I think about 10 years ago, it had a list. If I find it, I'll send it to you. It's a list, and you can click on it and listen to it back and forth of every single song and what they stole.
Zeppelin specifically?
Yes. Zeppelin, back to back with the recordings. Some of them they don't even have recorded
anymore.
One
of my favorite Zeppelin songs, "Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You."
Yeah,
that was ripped off from the Delta. That was an old blues song, and it was written by a black woman. Also, think about Tennessee Whiskey with Chris Stapleton.
Yeah,
that was that song has been redone over and over 2 or 3 times now. Like it used to be like some kind of a more of a jazzy type thing, and you can look at the history of that song.
Did he not write that song?
Oh no.
Okay.
No,
okay.
That song has exchanged hands 3 times now.
It reminds me of House the Rising Sun, because House the Rising Sun is kind of one of those songs, and it's so weird because the Animals is obviously the one that most people have heard, if they've heard it, but that's one of those songs that's so old that nobody really knows how well. And if you listen to the traditional version of it, it makes a hell of a lot more sense because it's about a woman who's stuck in a whorehouse and not some guy who's just addicted to going to a whorehouse.
Yeah.
Which is a completely different vibe.
Yeah.
And because the Animals are like, well, dude, just stop going to the whorehouse, man.
Not that hard.
I'm sorry, your mom was sewing you some jeans, and you have to go over here.
Well, I mean, when you public forum, and when it comes to that thing, the old school Mickey Mouse from Disney.
Yeah.
January 1st, that's public forum. You can use.
I think it's supposed to be public domain, but I don't think it's. I think Disney is fighting. Oh, dude, I think Disney's going so far to get the Constitution changed so that Mickey Mouse doesn't go into the public.
You're talking about the original, Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Not the newer iterations, with the Clubhouse.
Steamboat Willie is supposed to go into the public domain.
Wow,
which is and I had plans. So if it stays public domain, I will be using that on logos and flyers and things.
Yeah.
And I made a joke. I was like, I'm gonna put old Mickey in rehab.
They're gonna do. I mean, I have no idea what the mechanism that they'll use to prevent that kind of thing from happening, but I would imagine if there's any company in the world that's going to
Bob
come after
Iger is
you,
not going to let that happen.
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
But it would be fun.
It would be super fun. What do you think, Mark?
I don't know. I guess what is the distinction between Steamboat Willie, Mickey Mouse, and whatever Mickey Mouse Club, Mickey
I
Mouse
imagine
whatever at the patent office.
Every single iteration of him
is
under a different
copyright
or patent. Yeah,
gotcha. That seems kind of weird.
It does. And
you got a mouse named the same thing. I'm just saying. I wonder what the distinctions are that let it lapse.
But there are
specific
things,
artistic representations.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be my thought.
Okay.
I mean, even public domain now with some of these old songs that people are beginning to cover and rediscover now. You'll hear it in country music or different iterations all throughout. The Christmas songs even are public domain now.
Sure.
And so it's always interesting, when people get in the weeds with that, it's is it? Are you going to get away with this or not? Because whoever wrote it is long gone.
Well, I think
do you look to the estate?
The Happy Birthday song is the most famous example of that. Think of it. Really try to think of a movie from when we were kids that included the Happy Birthday song. They didn't, because the people who owned the rights to it were famously litigious. And it's only been within the last 5 or 6 years that it finally, entered the public domain?
I don't know what the law is, but it's some amount of time past the death of the original creator, and then maybe they can renew it once. It's something like that.
And it is complicated, and I think it also is different depending on what side of the pond you're on, because I know things like, well, Peter Pan, for instance.
Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh's out of copyright.
But Peter,
they made a horror.
That's right. They made that horror
And they're
movie.
coming out with a second one now.
But Peter Pan is not in the public domain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the J.M. Barrie estate will come after you with knives out if you try to do anything with Peter Pan. And I don't know how that. Well, I do know that all the money that comes from Peter Pan goes to like an orphanage or a charity or something like that. But they are famous for going after folks who try to use Peter Pan without paying for it. The Tolkien estate, of course. But
oh my God, they may be the worst.
Did you read about that guy who he has some absurd name, but he sued Amazon? And I think his name's Simon Tolkien. He's like one of J.R.R. Tolkien's nephews who runs the estate. This guy sued them because he wrote a book called The Fellowship of the King, which was a sequel to Lord of the Rings, and sued them for the Amazon show infringing his copyright. Right?
That's a little loose.
A judge ended up making this guy pay the Tolkien estate $134,000.
Big L, dude.
See, I don't have a problem with even the visual representation of Mickey Mouse, or because to me, and I
know you don't have a problem with it. But Bob Iger has a problem.
Okay,
with
but
it.
what I'm saying is that those things to me seem for I don't want to say uneducated, but uneducated in cartooning or character creation or whatever. Yeah. What really pisses me off is, like famously George Harrison got sued for, oh man, it's one of those like Phil Spector pop songs.
Oh my Lord, dude, what a nut!
That's what he got. He got sued for My Sweet Lord, for copying.
I kind of remember this. Yeah,
I'll think of it as we talk. But famously, people say like that destroyed George Harrison. Like he was so afraid to do anything, and it was in like 1971.
Out of the Beatles, and I think George Harrison and John Lennon, I know for a fact, did like Phil Spector, but Paul McCartney infamously had a strong distaste for Phil Spector.
Turns out he was right.
Yeah.
Those girl group records were good. Didn't Phil Spector do their last album, which sounded like ass?
Sometimes people perform really well when they're terrified.
Phil Spector's producing, was hit or miss during his entire career. And I think, with the different wigs and everything that he did over his career, I think that's why he was such a recluse. He would come out and party when things were good, high tides, but, when he had those big misses, boy, that's when he got crazy.
Yeah. But there's also got to be this sound chamber that folks like that live in. Because, the famous picture of him in court with that hair?
Oh, the most iconic one.
It just means that nobody told him, you look like you just stuck your finger in a light socket, Phil.
Well, that he used on his big property, it was, walled in, but, he would, and he had a lot of dogs, but it was suggested that he would dress up like Batman on that property at night and would wander the premises. He was very scared for his life at night,
So he put a Batman suit on.
He was the vigilante of the property.
I guess so.
I guess what I'm saying is that you hear about all these people that write, and I'm not saying, but you can't really copyright a chord progression and say.
No.
Tried.
But that's what I'm saying. The guy, I don't know his name, but had a song, and then Marvin Gaye's estate sued him for copying that song.
Yeah, who was that? It wasn't the Alan Thicke's kid, was it? They got sued.
I don't know what it is. I don't even know who it is or what song it was. But I'm saying I've read about it. But that there's these people that come and say, okay, I wrote a song and it's in the key of C and it goes C, E, G, C and it plays these chords back and forth and you're like, okay, no shit. Yeah. And that's what it returns to or whatever. It's just,
Well, dude, if anybody ever copyrights G, C, D, then country music is over with.
And God forbid they get that A minor in there, too.
I know, right?
But I'm telling you, even with, people's rights, and, we have, possibly the hugest pop star and one of the biggest celebrities in this time right now, Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Her music, and she's been in the process of re-recording, but her rights to her own music was bought by.
Did you hear about this? Because this is brilliant what she did.
I know they got bought by some nemesis producer of hers. Bought her.
No, this would be like the family that a lot of people have strong distaste for, and I'm blanking on the name right now.
Is it the pharmaceutical company family? What the hell are they called?
I cannot believe I'm blanking on them, because I mean every conspiracy theory, they're at the bottom of it.
Not the Koch brothers.
Not the Kochs.
The Bushes?
Not the Bushes.
Did I ever tell you about the time that I had that substitute teacher that told us the Bush family were all really reptile people?
No.
Schwab.
Okay.
Klaus Schwab.
Yeah.
That estate.
Okay.
So they had bought the rights to Taylor Swift songs, and now she's in the process of re-recording everything.
But like doing straight re-records. And she's told her fans, don't buy this version or listen to this version, and they're doing it. Like by the millions.
They must own her publishing rights, not the song. They own the publishing of those albums.
Right.
So that's how she can re-record them.
And also, like single-handedly, a lot of people give her credit for, like, think of a Scooter's Records in Starville.
Yeah.
For these small mom and pop record stores, she is credited to keeping those types of businesses
because people go in and buy the vinyl?
Business, because they're going in and getting those vinyls as she cuts them.
The re-recorded ones, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so I'm not a Swiftie, so to speak, but I will put some respect on that.
Tell you what, that Ryan Adams album where he just did
1989.
It's pretty good.
I actually enjoy that more than her version.
Yeah, be careful.
Actually,
they'll come after you, man.
A big part of the set that I prepared for the open mic tonight is I'm doing like probably 2 or 3 Ryan Adams in a row. Like I have been on a Ryan Adams kick.
Well, what songs are you gonna do?
Don't give me a line here. Let me pull them up because I won't tell you right. I'm going to do
Carolina?
When the Stars Go Blue.
There you go.
Okay.
To Be Without You.
Okay.
Lucky Now.
Okay. Sweet Carolina is my favorite Ryan Adams song.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Just throwing that out there.
I'll have time to dial that one up.
Yeah, didn't he get in trouble for like?
He's done a lot of
He
covering.
got in trouble. He got in trouble for being
but like he's sober now, so. But he has been a bit of a creep in the past.
Sure.
But he was.
But there's got to be a spectrum. I mean, rock stars have always been.
Ass
and I'm
grabbers,
not.
man.
Yeah, I'm not. And I'm not defending ass
territory.
grabbing,
Yeah.
but know who you're dealing with and treat them accordingly. If you go backstage and see, Mick Jagger, he's probably going to be all Mick Jagger at you if that happens.
Yeah. Or get a little Bill Cosby. I'm gonna put a little bit.
But you see that's exactly. But see, there's a spectrum here. This is what I'm saying. There's a spectrum here between R. Kelly.
Now I won't cuss, but I will put a little roofie in your drink. Okay?
Get right down over there to get a pudding and it's gonna be good. Bill Cosby. Which you see, I have been a massive stand-up comedy fan for as long as I can remember, and there is arguably no more joyful or perfect piece of stand-up that was ever filmed than Bill Cosby's himself. It's perfect. It's what the Cosby Show ended up being based on. And I can remember like getting excited for my son to be old enough to be able to watch it. And now that's gone right out the window.
I mean,
because you can't. I mean, that's how. And look, I have.
Can you separate the art from the artist?
This is the question. And again, I do think it's a spectrum, and I do wonder why it's okay that Michael Jackson is just fine. It's just fine, and nobody.
Well, he has Macaulay Culkin and others that speak up for him on his behalf.
Yeah, but there are other people who haven't been convicted of something, and but they also But does Macaulay Culkin outweigh like the 8-hour documentary that HBO did? Because if you watch any of that, it seems pretty.
It does. And I'm not defending like Michael at all, but like whether he never took, and there was another celebrity kid that spent time with in Never Never Land, but both of those, maybe it was a Carter.
Was maybe a Corey?
Maybe. But both of those came out and said...
They were probably in Lost Boys, one of them.
but both of them said he never touched me. And so, like,
Yeah.
it does look good that you had 2 childhood celebrities say no when you had all these other outcries who were practical nobodies.
And again, this is all speculation, and nobody's been convicted of anything. But, if you're going to be a person who does that, of course you don't do it to Macaulay Culkin. You do it to the charity child that comes in, right?
Yeah.
I'm just, I'm not trying to give tips to anybody.
Yeah, you've been thinking about this too long, Wade.
What you getting for Christmas, Alan?
Man, I've had a Christmas party last night upstairs at Huck's. I was very happy about that. Got a ribeye steak.
There you go.
And a baked potato and all the appetizers. I didn't expect that. And I just got a $100 gift card from our brother Munson.
Oh, wow.
And doing Christmas with the family this weekend.
That's
and,
great.
Man, the way me and my brother have done it for years now is like, man, you and I are both older, and he's got a son and daughter. So I was like, I'm gonna focus my presence on your kids.
That's the way you should do it.
And you and I, let's just I'll get you a nice bottle of bourbon or something.
Yeah. No, that's exactly. Just spend it all on the children.
Yeah.
Everything for the kids.
I mean, keep the magic going as long as possible.
That's right. What just keep squint at them, make sure that they bake the cookies for Santa Claus and all that stuff. But yeah, keep it going, man. Mark, what are you getting for Christmas? We already did this, didn't we?
What?
We asked you what you were getting for Christmas.
A big credit card bill.
Yeah.
To pay my American Express after January.
Well, that's exciting. Oh. Well, let me do this. You might have noticed if you're watching, I've had a book here, and that wasn't an accident. A friend of mine named Kate Medley, who's a photojournalist, has worked for the New York Times, among other things, recently wrote and published this book, which is about her adventures running across the American South, stopping at, well, frankly, gas stations. And
one of the first pictures that we turned to,
Uh-huh.
and he had to correct me. I thought it was in the Delta. It was actually in Pritchard, where I had spent time.
Oh, really?
So I mean, she has went to the heartland, so to speak.
She's remarkable.
What's the title of the book?
It's called "Thank You, Please Come Again."
I like it.
I do too.
I've enjoyed the illustrations I've seen so far.
So get a copy of it. It's published by a publishing company called Bitter Southerner. I think that they're in Georgia, and they specifically focus on Southern artists and creators, which is pretty cool. So rather than it being some gigantic conglomerate, you're helping those folks out as well.
Absolutely, man. That's the next thing that I'm working towards on with Porch Talk. We did the vinyl record. We did the festivals. That's one of the next projects I'm working on. Is like, not only can you hear it, can you experience it, but I want to give something that visual. Something
You want to make you want to write a book? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Cool.
But and I've been working on that direction for a couple of years, and I've toyed with like several different directions, but like until I pin that down, what that's going to be.
Dude, I think you do straight up transcriptions. I think you do a book like heavy on the photography, but you go through, and this will be the hard part, is suss out over 5 years, the really good conversations that you've had, like the fun, interesting chunks, and you just do it. There was a great book.
So I just need to get this audio version and just let that be the book then, man. We're having a ball right now.
That's what I would do. There was this great book that The Onion published back when The Onion. They also I think it's called like Beware the Cockroaches or something like that. But they used to do these. They'd have this serious section of The Onion too, right? Like the AV Club.
It wasn't
stuff.
always satirical,
right? But it would be straight up conversations between whoever their journalist was and a celebrity or a notable figure, and it's just collections of that, and it reads like a play. Frankly, it's just Joe says and then Jane says, and it's just great, and that's all they did is just transcribe those things, and that's what I would do if I were you.
That would be the way to go.
Seems like that'd be long.
Well, you don't want no short book, Mark.
I'm just saying not everything in every conversation is just going to be.
No, you
Very
do have
interesting.
to edit it.
Yeah,
you have
cut
to
and
edit
dry.
it. You go
Okay.
and you select.
Well, you're saying
specifically.
transcription, like you
Well,
just
a transcription of the good stuff.
Well, like, and just to like the Lord of the Ring point earlier is, I was a big fan of this. It was supposed to be a trilogy. It was called the King Killer Chronicles,
King Killer Chronicles.
and 2 books out so far, and we have been waiting for over 6-7 years now for the conclusion of it.
I wish I'd not read any of the George R.R. Martin stuff.
Yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
you're
it's
right
just-
there with
it's
me.
It's just real irritating.
Yeah, I mean, because we I don't think that we'll ever get a conclusion.
I don't either.
And he, like, with the first book, with Kof and all the characters beautifully developed, and then the problems and the story, and then in the second book, instead of beginning to tie up loose ends, he created more loose ends.
Yes, he did.
And I was, buddy, good luck wrapping this up and like keeping it a trilogy
Yeah,
at this
yeah.
point. And so, I mean, that was another thing that I've been working on this for about a year, was trying, because fantasy is one of my favorite genres to read,
Mm-hmm.
and I've like most of them aren't even worth reading.
And there's so much of it.
Yeah,
That's the intimidating thing, because I don't know. When I was younger, I was all about just seeing a book somewhere and just saying, let's give it a try.
yeah.
And there are some series that I did. There's this, when I was a kid, this guy named Christopher Stashieff who wrote this series of books called like, oh God, I can't remember the name of the Witch Doctor. It's about this other universe where the way magic works is it's through poetry, but it all works around like Catholic rules.
That's
So God and the devil are real.
It's very interesting. Then.
Yeah, it's cool. It's neat.
So it's almost like miracles and
yeah.
demonic oppression.
and 100%. And it was well, you know, it was neat when I was in the 9th grade, but I can't conceive of the idea of just getting a book just 'cause, especially something that's fiction these days. And I kind of hate that.
And my point, like with like exploring the idea, was I am so tired of Hollywood or Marvel or Disney
yeah.
just regurgitating and giving us the same story with a new twist or of a new adaptation. It's like, tell a new story. Like,
Make a new thing.
yeah, give us something new.
I do have some sympathy for it in that it's the only way you're actually going to have a lot of people look at something is to use an established property.
And it also feeds on the nostalgia of the parents now who
of
can
course.
share it with their children.
I mean, he and I are both gigantic comic book dorks, as has been expressed, but you know, so much that it's getting irritating. But it is to some level getting to the point where as much as I love that stuff, I am completely sick of it.
You're over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know, and my brain is so full of, well, especially between like 1988 and roughly 2000 comic book lore esoterra, I kind of wish I had something more useful in there.
Yeah, but most people aren't. You know, they didn't know anything about that. That's why they go see those movies.
Yeah.
You know?
Very true.
I mean, in most of those movies, Marvel movies in particular, those are not even that. They're older than that.
Well, the further
the plots and themes and the
Yes,
stories,
they
they're
are.
adapted from.
stuff in the 70s and 60s.
I mean, other until you get to, you know, like Bucky coming back. You know, that was
Sure.
in the 2000s.
it was.
And then some degree of Civil War, but it's not the way it was in the comic books.
No, and
Well-
the further they get away from, I mean, it's like, you know what, Game of Thrones is a perfect example. The further they get away from the source material, the crappier it is.
And that was another thing, like with American culture right now, specifically like millennials and even to the generation below with Gen Z, is when it comes to comic books, they look more toward manga from Japan,
Yeah.
and they also are really into anime.
My boys are living examples of that because they
And
love it.
because I mean, like American culture, when it comes to a Marvel or a DC, is like it's a regurgitation of the culture to where people is like, yeah, it's the same old song and dance. When
Yeah.
you could hop over here to manga, or a Dragon Ball, or
But
One
even that
Piece,
stuff,
or
I mean,
whatever else.
all that stuff,
It's all the
it's
same.
the same. Yeah, I mean,
It's just in different packaging.
right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Did you ever get into anime at all?
Yeah, some.
Ninja Scroll, all that good stuff.
Yeah, Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
that was a good one. That's one of the better ones. One of my favorites.
He had a comic book before that, Masamune Shiro. It was called Appleseed, that I had the graphic novel of, which was it was a cool book. I liked those books probably before. I liked the manga before the anime because I like to draw stuff. I think the thing with manga, I think manga of the comic book market of America is like 80-something% of what they classify as the comic book market. That's the thing with those.
80% manga?
80% manga. You know, because...
I mean, when was the last time you went to like a Barnes & Nobles and like looked? It is that way.
No, I think, absolutely.
I mean, I'll ask you all this and you see what you think. When you read your first comic book, okay, where did you get it?
From my cousin.
Okay, but if you got one, if you bought it, where did you buy it from?
It would be like a thrift store, man.
Okay.
Oh, I can remember exactly. The first comic book I ever bought was Fantastic Four, and I think it was at a Walmart.
Okay, and my first one was at Super X Drugstore in the mall.
Oh yeah, and then
Okay.
the gas station near my house is
So
where
that's
I bought
what
all
I'm
my
saying
comic
is that
books.
the availability for most of us in most of society, our age and before, if you're going to pick up a comic book, you'd pick it up off of at the gas station,
Yeah.
drugstore, Walmart, grocery. You know, we're talking about George R.R. Martin and Game of Thrones. I've read those books. I've never seen the TV show.
I've never watched them either.
Okay, I'm glad,
I did.
I'm glad you're sympathetic.
I went TV show to books.
Okay.
Like,
And the first season is completely the first book, like almost. But there is a definite point where they'd caught up to Martin in terms of what had been published, and then it just goes into complete shit.
Yeah,
I mean, sucks.
the
It's great up until then, though.
possibly the greatest trilogy film that, in my opinion, probably ever. And I read the books, and I still enjoy the books more. Would be Lord of the Rings.
Oh, definitely.
And and then when Peter Jackson took The Hobbit and turned it into a trilogy film, that was absolutely
Unbelievable
It was
crap.
It was dog shit.
Yeah, it was terrible.
And
I've never been able to get through. I've seen the first.
You remember the
one,
old
but I've
cartoon from the 80s?
It's CBS, dude.
That holds
The
up.
Greatest Adventure.
Yes, yeah, I own that, dude. I got that DVD, and I watched it with my nephew recently.
Is
and he
what
was like,
lies ahead.
yeah, that holds up.
The guy who played Gandalf directed the Maltese Falcon.
Whoa.
Yeah. Sam Houston, I think is his name.
John
Houston, not Sam Houston.
John Houston.
John Houston,
The
yeah.
famous
But yeah,
director.
I mean, even like when I was a kid, man, reading, like I was big on C.S. Lewis, not only with like the
Yep.
fantasy with Chronicles of Narnia or even Escape from the Silent Planets. You know, I would read like
You read the Space Trilogy?
Yeah.
Dude, that's great.
When I think about those two, because Tolkien and Lewis, they were friends.
They were best buddies.
Over in Oxford, and
Yeah.
like I know they had a lot to do with each other's faith, but also in the writing style, I consider Tolkien to be a world builder. Like
Oh,
he
definitely.
spent his entire life
Definitely.
building Middle Earth
Definitely.
and like even developing languages and writing the history, the Silmarillion, you know, and I mean
that's
all
the
those
thing.
things.
And I can't get through the Silmarillion.
Oh, it's tough.
It is very much like reading a technical journal.
Yes, but like
It's like reading the Bible.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it's like
Old Testament.
it's
and
like what
so
it
and
is.
so begot so and so.
Right.
It's like, well, this don't really mean anything to me, man.
Iluvatar and the
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I think that's definitely now better to read the wiki.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and I'm thankful for that. But
Morgoth, who was Melkor or
But-
whatever.
But like when they started trying to make the Chronicle of Narnia films, it was like that's not holding up to the way that I imagined it in my
Did you ever
mind.
see the old BBC Chronicles of Narnia?
I don't know if I did, man.
Holy moly. I have a very, very soft spot for it in my heart. Have you ever seen it?
I was going to say I really like it. If you were going to say something bad, I was going to
I
say
love it. No.
So that would be the way to go.
Oh, yeah,
If you were gonna get it.
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I think I saw it when I was.
I mean, talk about it's like chewing on scenery. In fact, I've got the DVD somewhere. I'll let you borrow.
I'm about to say, I
them,
might need to
100%.
borrow
And
that
it goes through. Let's see. It goes through the Silver Chair.
Mm-hmm.
There's Lion Witch in the Wardrobe, Prince Caspian, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and I think it's the four of them. They do four of them. They don't do Horse and His Boy. They don't do The Last Battle. Which one am I missing? Magician's Nephew.
Magician's
Nephew.
That's the one with they go back and it's at the beginning.
Yeah. No, I mean, I loved Chronicles of Narnia. C.S. Lewis is one of those guys that I think any super hard, and I'm not a religious guy at all, but any dyed-in-the-wool atheist has to confront those, and you can't leave. Man. You can't leave feeling anything other than, you know what? Maybe it's not so great that I'm a smarmy jackass who says there's nothing out there if you get through that stuff, because that's exactly who C.S. Lewis was.
That's what he was trying to prove.
Yeah, and then because of his friendship, legendarily with J.R.R. Tolkien, he converted C.S. Lewis, and I happened to work with
C.S. would be Protestant and Tolkien was Catholic.
No, C.S. was a Catholic.
It was backwards then. It was backwards.
Yeah, they were both. Yeah,
okay.
No. J.R.R. Tolkien was a Catholic.
Yeah,
they were both
Tolkien
Catholic.
Converted him to Catholicism.
Converted to Anglicanism.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure.
My bad.
I'm
not.
It's one of the.
Yeah, he did.
They both were in the faith, but they practiced different.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Because I think I remember reading when I read. The only reason I remember is because I remember reading Tolkien's biography that he was dismayed, because he converted, but didn't convert to Catholicism.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
converted to Anglicanism.
Yeah, I remember that too.
I know a guy who can tell us, as it turns out.
Yeah, call him.
His last name Henry.
His last name is Snyder. I work with a guy named Dr. Christopher Snyder, who is arguably the world's foremost authority on J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis.
Well, that sounds like a guest for this pod, dude.
Well, we do a show, and he's in Oxford right now, and he's supposed to be recording a bunch of them. But we do a show called Mythopoeia.
When you say Oxford, you're talking...
Yeah, he's a faculty fellow at Oxford.
Okay.
And he's on sabbatical from Mississippi State. He's a history professor at Mississippi State. But he's on sabbatical in Oxford over there. I assume writing a book, because that's normally what he does. He's written 2 books about Tolkien, one called The Making of Middle-earth, and the other is called Hobbit Virtues. And they're both really, really good. He's written a whole bunch of other books about... He's specifically a medieval historian focusing on like King Arthur stuff. And what's interesting about Dr. Snyder is he got into Tolkien not from Lord of the Rings at first, but from his academic writings. Because Tolkien was a philologist, which means he studies how words came to be.
Well, that's why he got so good at making language.
That's exactly right. And Snyder is basically in the same field and was reading Tolkien's like academic work, and then he liked the movies, and then got into professionally J.R.R. Tolkien. He's got some wild stories. In fact, if you want to, the first show on that Mythopoeia podcast, we actually did live at the Art Center in Columbus, and check that out, and you'll learn a lot about Middle-earth, man. And
good
J.R.R.
plug,
Tolkien.
man. Well, man, just back to C.S. Lewis, just for a second, like with the philosophy stepping away from the fantasy was like, Screw Tape Letters are like one of my favorite Lewis books was The Problem of Pain.
Yeah.
And like just dealing with these hard-hitting things that is going to hit every man and woman throughout their life.
Yeah.
And to see the way that whether you're in the faith or not, you can respect how faith led him through the problem of pain.
Yeah.
And,
And I don't fault anybody for that at all. I fault people for it turning into something political.
Absolutely.
I fault people for, deciding because this one particular, path that you use is the only path to get to whatever that is, and so I'm going to have to burn you at the stake. I have issues with that, but in terms of what people need to get through their lives, I don't fault. There are a lot worse things you could do, and I don't really, we were talking to another guy I worked with at Mississippi State named Christian Flo a few episodes ago, and we were talking a lot about AI and this idea that the Terminator, times are coming. But I said in that show, I'm much more concerned about like Brave New World than I am Terminator.
I think we're in a brave new world.
I think we are too. I think that there's so much opportunity to entertain yourself into just being completely sedentary and not going through processes of creating or pain or dealing with things sophisticatedly because you can just
look at young men today. Of a lot of they're incel, and like what that means is they're
not getting laid. They're pissed off about it.
They're not getting
laid. By the way, most
yeah.
That was also a thing when I was a kid.
But like it's to the nth degree right now, and I believe like with like
it's this idea that you're owed something, right?
I grew up like rural Alabama, and so everything that hit us was like 5-10 years later. And so I remember when we had the internet and dial up, and then people started talking about high speed internet, and I was like, what in the world is that?
Yeah.
And so like by the time that I was teenager graduating high school, like I was experiencing high speed internet, and now we have these practical computers in our pocket, and it's like, how easy is it to shut off from the world and like just to pull up a pornographic video?
It's very
and
easy. It's frighteningly
yank
easy.
Your chain and completely check out
all
together.
How old are you, Alan?
33.
You're 30. Okay. So I'm 10 years older than you. I mean, when I grew up, most people have a story similar to this. You have this one friend who has a weird dad.
And you go to Playboys.
That's right. And you go, and there's 8 kids
we had that.
hiding in some room.
Y'all probably had this too. Mark, you probably had this too. There was what we called the magic tree. And it would like...
I've heard of these. I never experienced
right
one
off
of
a dirt road.
Yeah.
And this was like right down the road from my home. It would have like a stash of Playboys, and at any given time, it would have those styrofoam coolers with like Busch Light or something of that effect.
Right.
And
so somebody's just paying it forward there.
Yeah, someone's paying it forward, yeah.
Just make sure you wear gloves.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
great.
See, I'm that. So Wade and I are closer in age, and that's the way it was. Is that if you want to see naked women, you'd have to go to somebody's house whose dad had Playboy, like
he was a bit of a perv. Yeah,
they stole it or whatever, and there was no shame.
And if they had Penthouse, someone should have called law.
And like,
if you had Penthouse in that group of 8, some people would be averting their eyes, and some people would be like, "No, let me look."
Let me ask you this:
but it was always like 4 or 5 dudes. It wouldn't be like one kid to be like, "Look what I got."
Yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't be like you were standing in line. You were 3 guys away from getting a copy.
I mean, I can remember being a kid, and like cable. But you'd have the scrambled stations, right? And I mean, buddy, like one of those magic eye pictures staring at the scrambled stations.
Trying to see if anything came through.
Yeah.
You know what I think some of that is about those incel kids, and I think this is just me projecting.
Involuntary celibate is what that stands for. Yeah.
Is that, and I'm not trying to be ugly, and this is not something that, but I think there's a whole culture of women out there looking to get laid. There are. Despite what people think.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of women out there looking to get laid. I think dudes...
Who thinks
those dudes...
What people,
those guys. Those guys. That's my point. If you're a guy and you're like, man, I'm involuntarily celibate, the first thing that rings out in my mind is these same dudes, like when I was young in high school, used to pine after the most beautiful girl in school.
That is the beginning, middle, and end.
And guess what? That girl don't give a shit about you and never going to give you any time of day.
Never even knew that you existed.
The difference is...
Go down a few rungs, you will be happy, and it's going to be all good. That's what I think those guys...
These people believe they're owed that. There's this sense of... There's this crazy sense of entitlement.
I can't help that, but
where's it come from? Because of their virtue and the way they see themselves?
In a real kind of glib way, I think it comes from pornography. I think it comes from relentless access to,
perfection.
Well, not just perfection, just but what you. I mean,
you can type in whatever you want to see.
I've seen some things in some videos that, if they happened to like a person I knew and cared about, I'd call the police on.
I guess what I'm saying is that what Alan's talking about is that those type of people, why are they doing that? Well, I think some of it is that they don't. If you're involuntary celibate, you never done anything. You're either A, chicken shit, okay, which you've lost some of those skills. That's what I mean that you're talking about, of being able to get out there shoot your shot.
Game.
Yeah, have some girl.
Deal with the embarrassment of rejection.
Right, be rejected, go home, suck it up, buttercup.
Yeah, you would rather go 0 for 0 than be 1 for 10.
Right.
I think that's part. I think y'all are right. That's part of it too. Is you're so afraid of rejection at some point, you don't take a shot. Yeah.
And there's a little.
But you have to do something also to be the kind of person that is going to be attractive to women at the same time.
All I'm saying is, if you ask women, I don't know this, but I think this. If you ask a woman, what's the most attractive thing about a man? It may not be one, but it's at least in the top 3. Top 3 of anything is being self-confident.
Oh, 100%.
Top 3 for any woman. Okay? You ask a man, and probably not even in the top 3 is looking cute. It's probably like being funny, being self-confident, and being able to take care of me, and not financially, but just...
I can remember
a man's number one thing almost always is to be good looking. And that's a bag of shit.
Because
everybody gets old and fat.
Here's one that doesn't work. What doesn't work is singing a weepy song on the guitar and leaving it on her answering machine. In my experience, that doesn't work at all.
Now, that's how you get the damn police called on your ass.
But you're right, and because I've been on both sides, I was very much the piney, oh my God, nobody's ever going to love me kind of person. But the minute it was sort of like, what am I doing? Why am I caring so much? Then it all went boom.
Okay. Hopefully, and maybe I don't know, maybe this wasn't just self-discovery, but you probably had a good friend who kicked you in the ass and be like, hey,
100%.
What are you doing to
stop
yourself?
Stop it, Wade. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
And I feel like some of that has gone out of the window. I don't think people have camaraderie like they used to.
You mean like pining after a girl? What are you talking about?
Like you do something stupid and your buddy says, stop doing something stupid.
Bad haircut.
Yeah.
Bad style.
Okay, you're just talking about the group correction.
Yes.
Yeah. Got you.
Yeah, the ability to be like, make fun of you, like man to man, until you correct your behavior.
Yeah.
But don't you think all those guys, if they're incel people, they're probably antisocial, so they don't have anybody around to say, like, stop being a douchebag.
That's fair.
Right?
That's fair.
I mean, I think that some of the thing for people younger than us is that personal interaction is non-existent.
And it's been fascinating over the past, decade and a half or so to learn that, nerds might be the most evil group of people on the planet.
Like who?
Well,
because the incel thing has a heavy misogynist element to it.
And they also get power hungry, and once they step into power, they want to ruthlessly...
I mean, but that's just like if somebody got a video game that I wanted when I was a kid, but it's not so great. It sucks. I mean, like, that's like those incels being ugly about women is like me being like ugly about people that own Lamborghinis. I ain't going to own one, never going to have one.
Writing manifestos and killing people.
You're talking out of your ass. Well, I'm saying they're just looking for something. That's just...
Yeah, they're looking for one particular thing, man.
But my point about those people is they should just bump their ass a few rungs down the ladder.
Yeah.
And then
once
they lose their virginity, they'll figure out, like, oh, well.
Yeah. But see, they're so special. They're so special and important that they're not willing to lower their standards for that. So...
I don't know why
they'll kill other people
where else you just have to be, and I'm not talking about attractive, you just have to be personally reprehensible in a way that is so unappealing. It wouldn't just be unappealing to women. You just have to be an unappealing human being.
And those,
that's the dirty little secret. There are people, every single person around, if they're single, is looking to get laid. Men and women. I mean, come on now.
Oh, dude.
You just got to find the right puzzle piece.
Yes. You got to find, like, whatever that is about you and just embrace it.
Yeah.
And you all got a thing. It's, man, a personal story, man.
We were glad I'm married.
Imagine being on the field now with dating apps and everything. You got the world against you right now, dude.
I am so thrilled. I never had to deal with any of that.
This market is so wild, dude. Like, it's so easy to become the other guy. Or
what do you mean the other guy?
The dirty little secret.
That seems so exhausting. Like the so like just fundamentally. I mean, I got so much shit to worry about right now. I can't conceive of that kind of thing.
Man, I'm telling you.
But you mean being the dirty little secret without knowing you're the dirty little secret?
Oh, then one day it just kind of rears its head.
You get like somebody's banging on your door.
No. I'll give you an example. It was like this has been like a year or two ago. And like college town, right? While she was here, we would hang out. Well, she's going home, back to wherever for a time. Coming back, we're hot. Going back for a time. And then I remember like one time she come back, she had a ring, and it was almost like a Lord of the Ring thing to me. It's like, cool ring, you must have a cool job. And then it dawned on me.
Yeah.
I was like, I've been the other guy. Like, the one is back home, and I'm just...
Well, look, we got to answer the question. Did you get your damn booty call?
Yes.
Okay. All's right in the world.
Yeah. So I didn't lose anything, but at the same time, I thought I was the guy when in fact I was the other
terrible.
guy.
It's like that secret family
You were batting
stuff.
cleanup.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And so I think that happens a lot.
Oh, I think it definitely happens a lot.
A lot.
I mean, I don't know a woman that that who doesn't have like a relentless collection of unasked for male anatomy pictures.
Oh yeah.
Like not one. And I don't care. I mean, if they're 95, it's happened to them before.
Absolutely.
Which is crazy. Like, can you imagine when you and I were coming up, like getting a Polaroid?
How you like this?
I mean, yeah.
Lord of mercy.
And then like,
I wouldn't even take a picture of my dick for myself and be like, look at this thing.
The audacity, right? It's like, I know what you've been pining for. Here it is.
Yeah.
yeah,
because it's unattractive.
It's not an attractive.
I mean,
thing.
what do you want to see my
least-
beans and sausage? Here it is.
The least attractive part of me, here it is.
Exactly.
I got a wild hog down there. It's ready to sow some
But you
wild
got to deal
oats.
with Manscaped, right?
I do. So, by the way, if you use Porch Talk, all one word, at manscaped.com, you can get 20% off your total purchase order.
I need to use that for sure.
You can get your downstairs mixed up, all cleaned up. Performance package also comes with the weed eater, which gets your nose and ear hairs. And then they got a great beard trimmer. So, manscaped.com.
Just don't mix them up.
Well, if you do, it's on you. Just don't share it.
Don't get your weed eater on your beans and 2 bits.
Oh, Lordy.
I think some of it is probably, in general, people have this like fear of committing to people, and I'll say this just as being old and married is that
It's better.
I mean, it's better, but the thing about that is you need to, this would be my advice to people if they're young and they're out there playing the field, is they need to be reasonably attractive, right? You need to find them attractive for whatever that is. The rest of it, to me, would be try to find somebody that fits whatever is your outlook of the world. That could be from whatever view. If you're religious, to marry an irreligious person is going to make it difficult.
That's irresponsible.
If you spend a lot of money, don't marry somebody that also likes to spend a lot of money. You're going to be in trouble. You got to have some balance. Try to find somebody that's got the same morals, beliefs, values, outlook about the world as you. The rest of that bullshit, like, is just superficial bullshit. Everybody's going to be old. Everybody's going to be fat. Everybody's going to be ugly. What's going to happen if they're sick and you got to take care of them? If you're sick, are they going to take care of you? I mean, all the rest of it's just...
I think about these people in the manosphere who are just raking in cash right now.
The manosphere?
Like it or not, Andrew Tate's.
I don't know who that is.
Well, perfect. Don't ever look it up.
Okay, don't look him up.
But like people like him who are like out here who are incredibly fit for their age, and he's a kickboxing champion. He used to do internet work to where basically he had an OnlyFans before it was OnlyFans.
Okay.
And like when you were DMing these girls, you were actually talking to him. And he was doing the hey baby and buttering you up to get more money.
I mean, that's of course that's the way that
and
works.
And
right?
now he's transferred into like the manosphere to like giving these incels advice on make yourself more presentable.
Like one of these hookup artist kind of dudes?
Yes.
Okay.
Very
No,
similar.
shit, I think I could do that.
Well, yeah. I mean, you might get some bread in the game. I mean, hey, did we tell you that this podcast is now? Look, this is the Patreon. Look, I think some of this stuff's going to end up on the Patreon. You can give a little bit, and I'll come back and we'll tell you some stories on how it all worked. But Yeah, but like
dating advice from a guy who's been married for 20 years.
What better advice could you get? Yeah, I mean, all these people are like raking in, and like people are paying money for these people to tell them how to behave. Be like, you got to work out, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to. And I was like, man, you are eating all these things up, but like the number one thing that you're missing is, I think to your point, Mark, figure out who you are, because man, the only Alan Aldridge is. Well, there was one who's passed away now. Used to be a painter, but this one is the best representation of myself.
I think it's great. I mean, and to your point, my piece of advice, seriously, is accomplish something. Do something.
Yeah.
Do something that you did that your daddy or your mama didn't help you do, that has nothing to do with anything else other than something that was difficult for you to achieve, and you got through it. There is nothing that makes you feel genuine, and you can't. And the thing about confidence is, I don't think you can fake it. But there's nothing that makes you develop that more than doing that. And that can be. It doesn't have to be anything great.
What's that got to do with getting some ass?
Everything, I think, to make yourself attractive to another human being.
And I mean, you're gonna get up there and you're gonna fall on your face. It's okay to eat. It's okay to eat shit.
And also learn. And I think when I talked to you, we covered this a lot. Develop because the thing I think that's probably universal about these incel folks is. Stop taking yourself so damn seriously, man.
Yeah,
learn how to laugh at yourself.
Lighten up a little bit.
Learn how to bust your own balls. Get around people who are willing to make fun of you in like in a loving kind of way. But don't get so pissed off and worked up.
What are like just simple? I don't know if you have anything that I think we've beaten a dead horse now. But like, what are some goals that you are setting yourself up for? Maybe not a New Year resolution, but like in the new year. Do y'all do that? Do you have something that you're aspiring to do?
Well, my last one was quitting smoking, and I managed to do that.
Well, I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good. Look, here's the thing. It's fine. I quit smoking almost a year ago, and that's held pretty steady. And I think the next one is getting into some kind of shape. I got to do something. I mean, I'm 43, and if I had to run to that stop sign, I would die. Yeah.
What would that look like? Would that be like maybe some MMA or like, what do you think?
I doubt it would be MMA. I don't think I'd jump straight into MMA. Lifting weights and doing some cardio stuff. My thing is, though, like I've said, I've never been what you would call an athlete. I would probably need some kind of help, guidance, and someone cracking a whip over me at some level to actually do it. And so I've been thinking about doing that kind of thing. One of my goals was, you can probably relate to this, I really am not happy or myself unless I'm in the middle of like making a thing. And I've been doing a lot of that lately, and that's been pretty great.
Yeah.
So whatever that is.
What about
you?
Yeah.
Man, I've already started working out.
Good for you.
That's what I tried to do. We were talking about it. I said, I feel like ass. Just getting old. Even in that 10 years from 30 to post 40. Like, I've gotten to where I felt like ass.
Get excited about when your knee just hurts. Just hurts. Why?
Just being 43. And I was always in pretty good shape. So probably about a month ago, I started exercising. It sounds kind of... So I'm going to continue that, even though I already started. Because I was like, well, if I start at New Year's, that's just going to be a bunch of trite bullshit. So let me go ahead and get going. That way I can kind of get my motor revved up come January.
Right on.
But I'm trying to... I don't know what, man. I'm trying to get back to being more spiritual or something. Like you said, I'm the real Alan Aldridge, the only one that's right here. I feel like, my real Mark, I've like lost. I've kind of lost over a period of time.
Sure.
And some of that's been having to do stuff I didn't want to do all the time, which sounds like a spoiled brat thing, but it's really not. It's been approaching things that I didn't want to do or that were hard, like doing hard business deals or working on things or having to solve these complicated problems. And kind of doing it a traditional way, the way that society will say you should do it, or the way...
Hire someone else to take care of it.
I've tried to do it, go back to the creative way or the way that, I used to approach things, which I think was always more successful for me. Not that it was less labor intensive, it was just more kind of in my own wheelhouse. And, You know, like in my line of work, I deal with these guys, and I mean, they're just a lot of slick operator kind of guys, if it makes sense. Just slick ass, you know.
Trying to get one over on you.
I mean, constantly. You're dealing with people that are, and it's a constant fight. It's constant, really, acrimony almost, right?
Okay.
So some of it is to try to approach things instead of being like, okay, you punch me, I'll punch you harder. You punch me, I'll kick you in the ball. You know, like instead of doing that, just I'm trying to like learn and teach myself to play a different game instead of playing this game that exists now, because it's a really kind of unpleasant way of existing. If that makes any sense. It doesn't. It makes sense to me, but I can't really fully explain it.
This is one of the hardest working sons of bitches you've ever met in your
It's
entire
hard to
life.
explain.
I don't doubt it, dude.
Look, I think, and we kind of go out of our way not to talk about his time volunteering for the city of Columbus, but I think this story tells you everything you need to know about my friend Mark. When he was volunteer COO, there was a significant problem because of labor shortages and things like that, getting roadways weed-eated. You know what he did? He weed-eated Columbus.
Not all of it, but some of
A
it.
humongous portion
Some of it.
I remember seeing him. He looked like Swamp Thing.
But, you know, some of that even comes from a negative place, man. Like, the negative place is that...
I can only imagine what kind of dark place that took you to.
Well, like
while doing it.
To me, the negative place is that a lot of people, you know, I'm a junior. People know my dad. I go there, volunteer. I'm doing it voluntarily, okay? It was like an $80,000 job. I think they pay the girl now like $100 and change, right? So it's a $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month job. And I didn't want to take any money. Because if you take money, then you have to do what somebody tells you.
That's very true.
And I didn't want to just be a rebel and be a, you know, just wild buck up there. But I didn't want to have to do the political things that are wrong, meaning operationally wrong for the people. That's what people want. People don't really care about all this puffery and bullshit that exists. They want that. You know, they want this 250-yard ditch that's full of snakes and shit behind their house weed-eated because they were supposed to do it 8 months ago and they never done it. You know, or they want whatever, this thing that's flooding their yard fixed. So I try to actively avoid all that and just focus on the operational things that please everybody. And
how crazy did you drive yourself while you was in that
Completely. Completely.
Crazy. And running businesses.
He was supposed to do it for, I think the original idea was he was supposed to do it for, was it 1 month or 3?
It was 60 days.
Yeah, it was 2 months. He was supposed
60
to
days
do it.
Which turned into what?
July. I mean, I didn't finally leave till after the first year. I was still doing stuff.
It was at least 6 months.
But I
he was
left
there.
full-time doing it in October. But see,
And there are a lot of people who would love for him to come back.
A lot of the things...
So you quadrupled what you promised.
Right.
Yeah.
But some of it was that also the CFO quit and took another job. And so me and another guy who had been working at the Light Water Department doubled on that and did it together.
Yeah, he was doing the finances,
and so
too.
I had to do that.
And this is
some
off
of
the
that
back
too.
of all the Milton Raw stuff.
Oh, yeah, I'm very familiar. Like, I was watching all that go down.
Yeah.
So it was just, and you know, my biggest thing, and that's my failing in life, is I don't want to let anybody down.
We went on this trip. So Mark bought a Nintendo 64. Was it a 64?
About what?
For the CRTV.
I don't know why I bought that. It was just like a randomly rare TV that I found.
He found a CRTV. I think he bought it for like less than $100.
It was $50.
$50. And he and I drove to Columbus, Ohio to pick it up.
Oh, my God, what a trick.
It was awesome.
CRTV, for those at home listening who may not be aware.
When we picked
Is that
it
that
up,
thing with the box on the back?
It's one of them big old TVs. But when we picked it up, the guy was like, nobody believed that y'all were coming.
He took a picture of us to prove. Yeah. He said, I told all my friends, and they didn't believe that guys from Mississippi come to pick up this $50.
Super sweet dude, but there was not a 30-minute period that he wasn't on the phone that whole trip. All
dealing with business.
No, city stuff.
Yeah.
It was in the middle of that. It was over the weekend we left, and so
like
people were
5 days,
calling.
4 or 5
It was
days.
in the fall, and it was after I'd left full time, so it was after Thanksgiving I think we went. But I used to say that I never learned anything good, and I just thought it was a completely negative experience, which kind of in general, I don't believe that, But what it taught me, and it's something that I struggle with, but I've gotten better at it since then, is saying no. To learn to say no when people ask you for things and it's not really indicative of the people that work there or even the political bullshit that I had to deal with at some levels.
Sure.
It was just...
I think it's fair to say that you get paralyzed at the idea that someone will think you didn't do the best job you could have.
Shit, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to say that.
And then at some level, you have to wonder, why the hell do you care?
Because I'm demented.
Yeah. I get it. I am very much the same way.
I'm demented. I don't want somebody to say that I didn't do a good job.
Right.
Now, I don't mind people said I didn't do a good job if I did what I thought was right. If I did what I thought was right and somebody came up and said, you fucked that up and did a really bad job.
How much do you let, like, your namesake hang over?
A lot.
I was about to say being a junior.
A lot. In a small town, my dad had a big business. He employed, probably 4,000 to 5,000 people in the United States. And had a big business that was here. And, I don't want anybody to say, well, you did a bad job. And, my father's not going to think bad. And he would think bad if I did something, went up there and embezzled money or did something like that. He's the type of guy that's going to say, God bless you, son. I don't know that I would do that.
Right.
But God bless you. I know you'll do a good job. And he would believe that I would. And if there was any kind of, shit slinging that was going on, he would, say that's not true and et cetera. But, I really, and I still do, I think Columbus is, I'll tell you a story, Alan. I've told Wade, I don't think I've told on the show, but I was sitting here in Munson's with a big guy in one of these big industries out in the industrial park, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about moving to Columbus, and he's looking around, and he says, Columbus has got billions, tens of billions of dollars of industrial development. I mean, this is in the last 12 to 18 months. Billions of dollars of industrial development. Terrific location geographically to continue to prop up that industry and grow it. Terrific cultural things. It's still got, decent infrastructure. You got good things going on. He said, and Columbus should be great, but it just isn't.
Yeah.
That's what he said. And that was my thing always, is that...
Because of all the roundabouts.
Oh, gosh.
It's just that there's this unconquerable thing that boils under the surface, which is that in every environment, you got to throw political bones for certain things.
Absolutely you do.
And that...
But that's true everywhere.
That's what I'm saying. In every environment, you have to do that. But you can't throw out all the bones or throw out everything until there's nothing left in the piggy bank. And then on the opposite side, you can't not throw out any political bones or you don't get shit done. And that's kind of where we are. And, what I wanted to focus on in going there was that people have real problems that only their local government can fix, and they're being betrayed by their government. They're not fixing it. They're not fixing whatever this gigantic dish that's behind their house that they should be cleaning out, and it's flooding their backyard, or whatever there is, or these crime issues. I mean, you got people that are held hostage in their houses because of these people shooting guns and acting up. They don't sign up for that.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's my soapbox.
I get it, man, and to the point with you and your dad, I struggle with that too. You got a bit of
a legacy upon you as well.
Yeah, I love my old man very much, best friend without question. But at least, especially this time of year when you start seeing folks you hadn't seen in a while, I'll get called Mark all the time.
Is that real?
Oh yeah, all the time. From people who've known me my whole life. And so, and trying to honor a legacy of a guy who was, and we were very, 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 very similar in some ways and very different in other ways. My dad was an extremely extroverted person who was completely joyful all the time. I don't know that he had ever experienced depression, except maybe around like the playoffs.
I don't know if I agree with that, man. He would probably,
but he
probably had a way of
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Because I mean, you have to be the flagship for your family when you're the father figure. You can't let your children.
I mean, when my mom died,
weakness.
that was tough. But what I mean is I'm really introverted. I'm just good at pretending I'm not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, really. Yeah, really. I'm an introvert who's good at pretending that they're an extrovert. And I fight that all the time, and I fight depression all the time, and I fight this idea that I'm not living up to what he would want me to be all the time.
Wow.
And I don't think that's entirely a terrible thing.
Do you carry that burden alone, or do you think your brothers or other siblings, do they feel the same?
I can't speak for them. My brother and sister are different people. They're great people, and we get along fantastically. But I do think that there's something to being the oldest where you feel the weight of whatever came before you a lot heavier than maybe the younger siblings do. And they may feel completely differently, but that's just what it seems like
Fair
to
enough.
me. And I think he'd probably agree with that at least. But I'm really, even though I didn't have my parents for an incredibly long time, my mom died when I was 30, and my dad died about 5 years ago. I'm really, really grateful I had those two people as my parents, even though they sent me to my basketball game in jean shorts.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the things that we've been talking about and we've talked about before is I've known a lot of people, and my parents were never like financially successful. They were never movers and shakers in any great way. But what they were super good at was they were super great at fostering a sense of like love and humor, you know? Like they were super great at not allowing the things that I think sometimes destroy people to ever bother them. Like they didn't care if they lived in the biggest house. They didn't care if they had the fanciest car. They didn't care. Those things didn't matter.
It was humility.
Yeah, I think so. My dad's favorite thing to do was to hang out with his buddies.
Had Budweisers.
Oh, and all of them. And laugh really, really, really hard. And at the same time be able to, and because of that kind of capacity, when it was time for him to be serious, people took him seriously, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, like a little bit about like my goals for the upcoming year is was something that was realized halfway, like maybe 3 years ago when I was throwing these festivals and beginning to see success with the Porch Talk podcast and with all the endeavors that I was beginning to see myself as a mover and shaker in culture.
Yeah.
Is I am spiritual or religious or however you want to see it. And I prayed to God and I asked him that he would see fit that if I could bring to my community and even abroad something beautiful, something that hadn't been done, something that could be celebrated, something that the community could rally behind and hold as their own and be proud of, allow me to do that in whatever iteration. And so I continue to look for different ways to be creative along with the podcast, with the festivals, even in like the idea of having a book or
by Kate Medley.
Or like with the record or whatever way it is I'm so sick of brutalism when it comes to architecture. I'm so sick of pop music when it comes to music. I'm so sick of just it's all mundane and boring, and I just want something new, and I want something people to be able to rally behind and be like, this is ours. It is completely real. It's tangible, and there's nothing like it in the world.
So you want to create a movement?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm so cynical most of the times, but I believe everything that just came out of your mouth. And I am typically uncomfortable being that straightforward. But I believe in it. I believe you. I believe that's what you're trying to do.
Like I'm continue to make those strides, make those steps, and like seeing it being realized. And then how can I press harder? How can I how can I continue to step into this? I mean, like hosting this open mic, I've been doing it for well over a year, and it may not mean a damn thing to most people, but it means a lot to me because this is an outlet, and also it inspired other singer-songwriter or open mics that we now have in Tupelo, and we just had one spring golf in Amory. And that was because those guys came here and saw that and be like, oh, well, we could probably do that there. It's like, you got a bigger town in Tupelo. Why aren't you already doing that thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, even with, like, podcasts, man, like, I've had people come on my show and, like, they started podcasts. And I was like, that is the way.
Here's one right now.
Yes. I mean, like, there's a joke. Like, several podcasts that sprung up. There's one in Philadelphia, Mississippi. There's 3, 4 here in town now. Like, the Podfather, Porch Daddy. That's my nicknames now and all that. And I was like, man, that's so funny. But, like, that's part of the mission statement. It was like, yeah, I want to, like, continue to build my brand, whatever that looks like, but also it's not about me, but like to have people collaborate and come alongside me and help me with, yes, we can.
Yeah.
We can move and create our own culture, and we can celebrate like the best of us. And I'm so sick of the mundane and the mediocre. It's like, let's rise above this. We can do better, and we should. And I be damned, like, God bless me, I believe we can.
I appreciate the hell out of that, dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm. Also, I got fitness goals too. I mean, I got to get moving on that too. But like, my God, dude, like I am so sick of the stagnation of this American culture. It's like we need new things, and we're so capable. Like, we have 8 billion people on this planet right now. More people on this earth than ever. So therefore, we have the human potential to do so many wonderful things rather than fighting amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
Whether it be religious or political.
Yeah.
Why cannot we not celebrate and lift up these great ideas that we have? Space stations, whatever. I don't care. Music festivals, I don't care. Like, let's do something great. And move toward that. Like, and having these conversations, like we're telling stories from the past and like what made us who we are and getting our teeth knocked out or whatever else. But like, how many people listening probably can relate to that in some way or another?
I hope they can.
Because it ain't always rainbows and butterflies.
No, it didn't always rainbows and butterflies. But what I think has been a consistent thing is we've talked about over the course of this conversation, some, getting your teeth knocked out being a thing. And what have we done relentlessly is we've laughed about it. Mm-hmm. We've taken these things that have been difficult and traumatic that I guess would be very easy to hang your hook on, this is why I can't, and said, this is a
no, I can use that for my gain.
Yeah.
Because it's part of who I am.
Yeah.
And fuck it, make fun
of me. I was
that
toothless baseball player in
make fun
Alabama.
Of me. Make fun of me. I probably wasn't the only one.
They probably called you Gummy.
They did. Pawpaw.
Right.
But yeah, dude, here I am. I'm still moving. I got life in me, and dude, like the prayer I made, it's like, God, help me.
Well, however anybody chooses to do it, would encourage everybody to make a similar prayer, promise to themselves, whatever it is they talk to, whatever they want to do, as long as you're moving towards something that is not only just relentlessly positive, but is also not just about yourself, but about doing something that can express the humanity in everybody else. And I think sometimes this culture gets so damn cynical and so focused on self. And I believe in the cult of the individual. I think that's the only way you make everybody else move forward. But at the same time, let's start talking about what we have in common more often than we talk about how we're different.
Amen on that.
What do you think, Chief?
Amen.
I don't think you could sum that. I think you need to put a pin right there.
I think right there, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to Porch Talk. And
You plugged yours.
well, I was going to. I said I was going to
Possibly irrelevant.
Probably irrelevant.
Probably irrelevant, and possibly entertaining.
That was very close. Probably irrelevant, possibly interesting.
Damn it!
It's okay, dude. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I'm sorry, Wade, that I
You did great.
You
Alan.
did
butchered.
great. You did
great,
great.
Alan.
I butchered the name of the show.
I don't
makes
give
it better
a
on the
damn.
way
It makes
out.
it better. Thank you again for doing this. You're
Yeah.
helping us out a lot more than we're helping you
Dude,
out.
thank y'all, man. Like, dude, let me come back and hang out with y'all. Or like, y'all
100%.
y'all come on my program, too.
Yeah, we love to do that. We'd love to do that.
And this has been a blast.
Cool.
Oh
man.
yeah.
Well, anyway, guys, have a great new year. And like he said, keep everything positive. You can reach us on info at, what is it again, Mark?
Probably irrelevantpodcast.com.
That's info at probablyrelevantpodcast.com. Have we gotten an email from them yet? He doesn't know.
Haven't checked.
Check.
But we will now.
We will now. And rate, review, all that stuff. Regardless, love to you and yours. And we'll see you around next time. Bye, guys.